Hello, Internet, and welcome once again to the Always Online Multiplayer Gaming Podcast, brought to you by MMOBomb.com, your home for all things multiplayer related. I'm your host, Mike Byrne, a.k.a. magicman, and this is episode 447, and we've got a lot to talk about today. A lot of oof news this week, gentlemen. A lot of, like, you just click the links I put in the show notes, and you're just like, oof. We're going to go through all of it. We've got a couple new titles, one hitting and then another one hitting early access, so we'll get a peek at those. One of them, we've got a first look already cooking. And then we are going to touch a little bit on our interview that we posted yesterday. If you have not had a chance to take a look at it, and you liked talking about DreamWorld last week, which all of you did in chat, by the way. So chat on Twitch here, I'm going to need weekly bombs from you when we get there because nobody put one on YouTube. It was all the question of the week talking about DreamWorld. So chat, get some bombs ready for me. Of course, we are doing the show live, twitch.tv/MMOBomb every Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern. If you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, iTunes, of course, do us a favor while you're there. Click like, click subscribe. Come on over to MMOBomb.com. We actually got a Guild Wars 2 complete Steam set giveaway going. We've got 2 more giveaways coming up. Of course, the DreamWorld interview, an hour and 45 minutes with CEO Garrison Bellack. We'll talk about that to cap things off. So, yeah, just get your bombs ready because I need some bombs. And if you put them in chat, you still got to go and put them on the website for the following week. Literally, there's a note in the show that says, yeah, I'm going to have to get these from chat. YouTube was too busy talking about DreamWorld. So, joining me today to go over all of it, Mr. Troy Blackburn. What's up, Noob Fridge?
I've got donuts on the mind. Thank you to the pre-show folks.
Yeah.
We talked about donuts in England, so now I'm hungry for donuts. Not to be the fat guy on the show, but
donuts,
I could use a donut.
Donuts and England. That's what it's all about. I mean, Queen passed away. Condolences. New king apparently giving a speech right now, but you're probably watching this show. It's much more important on a global scale than anything the new king will have.
Yeah,
to
unfortunately,
say.
we're hurting the viewership of the king's speech, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. Also on the line, Wilfredo Rivera. What's up, sir?
Yeah, so we were talking, England and donuts, and I can tell you I have a new roommate.
Yep.
Well, I should say a former roommate.
What? Is the cricket back?
Larry's back.
Oh no.
He's not right now. I think he's asleep. He was drinking all night, but right now I can tell you, Larry is back, and boy, he has a lot to talk about.
Oh no, the cricket's back. I hate when that shit happens, particularly when you do like voiceover work or video and audio work, and you're in the middle of something and you hear it. You're just like, did the mic pick that up? I don't know. Should I keep going? Should I not? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
He's been back for a week now.
Well, I mean, get him to pay that rent. Let's get started, gentlemen, by hitting that news bump. Here we go. We're going to kick it off today with headlines and news, multiplayer gaming news that just makes you go, oof. Oof. And let's start with Blizzard, because they've been making us go oof for a while.
Just say the word Blizzard. Oof. Oof. I already know they're doing something that it's not good for the consumer because it's Blizzard. And they can't even, I've said this before, they can't even accidentally do something right.
And this man has spoken facts.
Yeah, it's a little bit rough. So we don't have exact confirmation on some of this, okay? So some of this is leaked Overwatch 2 stuff. Now, there is an image that shows Battle Pass and items that you can purchase to get ready for Overwatch 2, which, of course, will be free-to-play. Remember, that's going to be free-to-play. And a lot of your Overwatch stuff, one, carries over, provided you have done the linking shit through battle.net that you're supposed to do and all that fun stuff. But we were like, okay, how are we going to get heroes and things like that? And obviously, Troy, we all predicted there would be a battle pass of some type. It is a free-to-play game, multiplayer. Generally, what they do is a battle pass of some type. So that portion wasn't surprising. What is maybe a little surprising to you, depending on your perspective, is that heroes will be in that battle pass. So if you purchase the battle pass, you get the heroes too, any new heroes for that particular season. So that immediately kind of ticked people off, that heroes were locked behind purchasing of the battle pass. Now, again, that was just a leaked image of like what Blizzard's description for these items would be. So there was no direct confirmation, but John Spector, Overwatch commercial leader and VP over at Blizzard and head of the Overwatch League, did tweet saying, hey, I want to address some incomplete info posted early about our Overwatch 2 Battle Pass. We'll be sharing all details ahead of a launch, but we want to confirm that the new Overwatch 2 heroes will be available on the free track of the Battle Pass. So, hey, don't feel bad, Troy, that you didn't buy the Battle Pass and got the heroes. You can play and get those heroes for free. Now, what level of the Battle Pass they'll be locked behind and how long that will take you, we have no details on that. So somebody obviously did reply, credit to Doorwolf on YouTube and on Twitter, says, what happens if you don't reach that specific tier in the Battle Pass? Are you forever locked out of using that hero because you weren't grinding at that specific period in time, aka that season? And John replies, we'll have free paths to get new heroes in future seasons too. What that doesn't really answer is the question of, okay, yeah, well, obviously you're probably going to have heroes in multiple battle passes, but will they recycle? Like, will Hero A be available in Season 1, and if you miss it, maybe be available down the road in Season 3, Season 1, which I think was the original intent of the question. What if I don't make level 75, Troy?
Or what if it's Season 10 before they come back around?
Right. So obviously this not going over very well.
Another thing, also a good point, is that there's 70, 80 something tiers to this battle pass. Like, this is a really big battle pass, according to the leak that was given out.
Yeah, and you know, it does that whole fear of missing out and force you into grinding, Wilfredo.
I could care less.
And we don't know, right? Like, the heroes could be at 10, 20, 30 because that's a huge draw for the game. But it is Blizzard trying to incentivize selling the Battle Pass, I'm sure, right?
Right. And this is to me, at least, completely typical of Blizzard, because anything that they do, they're going to want to monetize as best as they can. And it would make sense because they've put shadier things behind Battle Passes before and paywalls. Why not put a hero or two?
And usually the way these things work is you have to buy the battle pass to get the accelerated experience gains within the battle pass itself. If you're going the free track, you're usually at an even slower pace than you already would be if you bought it.
Yeah, and then like 10 and 15 levels in, maybe it starts incrementally bumping your experience a little bit, but you got to get those grinds out of the way. But let me ask you gentlemen this, because looking at it in a vacuum, right, I'm not sure anybody would care that this was the way things were done, because this is the way things are done in an awful lot of free-to-play games that have heroes, that have battle passes. It's not like they've done something new or something a little more scummy than the previous version. This is pretty on par with a lot of free-to-play multiplayer hero-based games that we have now. I think, though, one, Blizzard and its monetization track record over the last 12 months, to put it nicely, has just been oof. And you have that experience, right, where you bought Overwatch 1 and the heroes weren't a concern, and now this is dramatically different. I think maybe that plays into it, and maybe I'm reading it wrong, Troy. You can tell me what you think. But maybe that does play into the reception here a little bit on why are you monetizing the heroes this way?
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that there wasn't more monetization of the heroes, even in the buy-to-play version of it, to be honest with you. It's not overly surprising that they're monetizing them in a free-to-play game, but putting them in a battle pass just seems really odd to me. That's most of the games that I play, they'll put skins and things like that in the battle pass, cosmetics, but I haven't played any games where the actual characters themselves are in the battle passes. So I'm not sure that I'm a huge fan of that, having to grind it out to get to the character themselves. If I want a skin or something, you grind it out. But unfortunately, now if you want to play certain characters, you're going to have to grind out a battle pass, whether you want to buy it or not.
What's wrong with just doing like the League of Legends model, right? Like what's
Yeah.
wrong with just stealing that model, Wilfredo, and just saying, here's a bunch of heroes that we give you from the onset. Here are some hero packages, and we'll sell them as they come out. And by the way, here's a free rotation of all those heroes that you can buy so that you do at some point get a chance to check them. Like, I don't understand why. Well, I do, right? Like, I do understand why they want to do it this way. But this model's tried and true. Nobody sits here and argues that League of Legends is pay to win in any real way, even though
nobody argues that League of Legends doesn't make any money.
Yeah, the only thing we've busted League of Legends cash shop for recently on this show was the arbitrary increasing of prices and the changing of prices to further not fit with the lumps of gems that you can buy, which is an industry despicable practice anyway. I'm not sure, Wilfredo, why you just don't go that way. It's tried, true, you make money, and hey, make a good game.
I honestly believe that this is more like we want to control our narrative. We don't want to be like that other company that gives you all this stuff that you can still pay for and stuff like that. It's more like we want our company to be recognized for this thing because we're good at this thing. And if you want our quality product, you have to pony up. It all it is just a different way to make the same kind of money, and the loyalists will buy into it.
And it's funny here, this second go around, they're still not doing, like you said, the League of Legends MOBA style monetization, because I remember back talking on Gamebreaker when the game was, just now starting to be announced and talked about. I predicted that they would do a MOBA style monetization. That ended up not coming true. They did the buy to play model. And so here we are now introducing a free to play game, and they're still not doing that model. So they obviously have no interest in that whatsoever. Even though I don't know, I would have thought it would have made more money selling individual heroes for a premium price instead of just a one battle pass for like $15.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a mess. And Jason Winter said it right on Twitter when we were talking about it behind the scenes, and he tweeted something out about, he's covered free-to-play news for a very long time, and the number one way to get your cash shop and your monetization screwed is by not being in control of, like you said, the narrative on how your cash shop works. And when it gets leaked, you aren't in control of the narrative on how your cash shop works anymore. So, way to go, Blizz. Staying with Blizz and Oof news, the most recent Hearthstone update has basically made the game unplayable for blind or visually impaired players who were relying on a mod that exists and has existed for a long time to enable them to play through some modifications of the visual displays in Hearthstone. That mod, the team that updates that mod, they're on vacation till like the middle of September. So in the absence of a mod update, Hearthstone is basically unplayable for that group, which kind of begs the question, if this mod has existed for as long as it has, Troy, and there is clearly an audience size that is not nil, a decent enough audience that this got a lot of traction on Reddit this week, a decent enough size audience. How has this just not been implemented by now?
Look, Blizzard could really use some positive PR. They really could. And what's an easy way to do that? Introduce native assistance for visually impaired people into your game. Bring that mod into your game. Make it part of it, an official part of it that's supported under all updates. Everything you do could be visually impaired, useful, and they're still not doing it. Like I said, they can't even accidentally do something right at this point.
Yeah, it's not like we're talking about World of Warcraft or Diablo where, maybe you've got to go and adjust. It's a game board. Like, it is a stagnant game board in front of you. And if a mod is already doing what needs to be done, then you don't even have to do the work, Wilfredo. It's kind of just like, hey, what does that mod do? Oh, yeah. well, that was pretty shitty of us not to think about that when we were designing the actual game to begin with, but let's rectify that right now.
It's not that. All right, mind you, it's a mod. That means other people made this to give accessibility to those who are sight impaired. Why wouldn't you just be like, hey, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Can you buy that off of you?
Yeah.
Let's put that into the game. Why? Because now you have more faces at your game. Absolutely. This is just Blizzard. Money with money and money.
And it's to be clear, it's not Blizzard's fault that the update broke the mod, right? That's expected. And it's just unfortunate timing that the update came out when the people who managed the mod were on vacation. That's just an unfortunate set of circumstances. The part that does give me a little is why wasn't this just put in ages ago? When you built it, by the way, when accessibility is a big topic in gaming these days. Visually impaired is probably one of the number one that you need to adjust for when you're designing a game, along with a myriad of other accessibility issues. But when I design software for work, one of the first things in this is, what if my users are colorblind? That is like just de facto one of the things that there's a whole list that I roll through, but that is like number 2 or 3 on the list. What if my user is colorblind? Is anything I'm using here reliant on you being able to see the colors of it? Yeah, I don't get it.
This is just one of those things that it's a common courtesy you'd expect for anybody who's going to be coming for your service, especially something that requires vision, and to be able to make it accessible for those who are visually impaired. You would think.
And somebody's already done it for you. Somebody's already done it. Oh, there's Mrs. Noob Fridge.
Again,
we've been seeing the dogs and Mrs. Noob Fridge. It's a busy background.
It is a busy day today, unfortunately.
Hey, we brought up the other, I think it was last week's show, that Phil Spencer over at Xbox had apparently reached out to Sony's Jim Ryan behind the scenes and said, hey, could you please stop going to these legislative bodies that are talking and getting feedback about our Blizzard Activision acquisition and acting like you're never going to have Call of Duty again. We have an active contract, and you know what? We're going to give you, I'll tell you right now, behind the scenes, it'll be available for several more years after that contract expires. So that seemed like a private behind-the-scenes conversation that Phil Spencer then said, hey, I have reached out to Sony and told them it would be available for several more years after the current contract. And we wrote up the article, and we speculated, what exactly does several more years mean? Like 2, 12? Like, what are your plans? Well, apparently Jim Ryan did not like Phil Spencer going public with what he felt was a behind-the-scenes shop talk type deal. And he wanted to clear up that several more years, no. The proposed support would only last for another 3 years past when the current deal ends, and Jim Ryan called that inadequate on many levels. He apparently intended to not publicly comment on the proposed deal because he understood it to be a private business discussion between the two of them, but since Spencer was already commenting publicly, he felt he needed to set the record straight. So apparently Xbox offered 3 more years after the current deal, and that's just inadequate according to Sony. And once again, it's like watching your mom and dad fight, Troy.
Sony, I'm just going to give my opinion here because that's what the show is about. Sony is a big crybaby, and they continue to cry, and they're trying to go to daddy legislation and say, oh, boo-hoo, we're not going to get this, we're not going to get that. You have a contract. Your contract says that you're getting the game for so many more years. You've got an unwritten agreement, handshake type deal that you're going to get it for 3 more years after that. Nobody owes you anything. You need to pay up and get the contract back under terms, or just shut up. Just shut up.
Takao
you're a whiny baby.
Takao kind of with you. He says, fine, have no more years then.
Right? Like, just have nothing then. Like, I'm so sick of hearing about Sony crying to everybody about how unfair this is and that is and everything else is. Shut up, raise your console prices some more so that nobody buys them, and just die a death already.
Well, Fredo, remember we talked about this, like the whole pitch that Sony tried to make to Brazil's legislative body, saying, "Hey, Call of Duty is just something that nobody can compete with. There's way too much money, way too much staff. Like you can't reasonably compete with that." And then Xbox turning around and saying, "Yeah, Activision Blizzard doesn't have any must-have titles. Like, no, we're buying this garbage company that doesn't make any must-have titles."
Yeah. Here's the thing. This is honestly, I understand that people are feeling some kind of way about this. Like, some people are like, Sony needs to shut up. I agree. And then other people are like, well, Microsoft and Activision. Here's what I say. Sony has two, and I was just talking about this last night with a friend of mine, two separate IPs that they can bring back from the dead and make their own shooters.
You talk about
and Resistance.
Well, I would argue that you also have Medal of Honor through a contract with EA, right?
Right, but I'm talking about something that Sony has.
Internal, gotcha.
Internal. Because I think the biggest thing that makes Call of Duty so big is the fact that it is multi-platform. Everybody has access to it. But in turn, when you have something exclusive, look at Halo. Halo is exclusive for PC and for Xbox. They make gangbusters for the most part. Current iteration notwithstanding. But focus on creating your own IPs. Sony has been buying out IP and IP just to hold on to via contract. When's the last time they put out something worthwhile that wasn't a God of War or a Spider-Man? They bought Bungie. They bought Destiny. Destiny is their gangbanger right now. And this is what you're going to do? I don't have Call of Duty. Deal with it. Make your own.
The worst part is they do still have Call of Duty. They're crying about it before they even lose it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're trying to use it as the rationale on why the deal shouldn't go through, right? And they're making that argument in multiple places. Brazil just happens to be one that we publicly were able to see that argument being made. That, hey, they have a franchise that is legitimately going to impact console sales and digital sales. And in the EU, they are taking a bit of a closer look at this deal. They wanted a little more time to look at it because specifically the digital sales market is what they were worried about here. So,
look, if you like it, you should have put a ring on it. If you wanted it that bad, you should have bought it yourself.
You should have bought ActiBliz yourself. Both Sony and Microsoft are saying whatever's in their shareholders' interest, just ignore the crying, says Nasagra. Well, yeah, absolutely. Hey, remember, you guys know that Elyon MMORPG, right? I did the first look on that a while back. That was the one that, if you don't remember, was going to come west with a buy-to-play box fee. And then just a few weeks before it was set to release, they said we're delaying the release to make it free-to-play, which immediately was like, okay. You haven't even released yet. And was pretty anticipated. Any MMORPG is. I mean, I'm not going to say it was over the moon anticipated or anything. Well, good news this week for Elyon players. They got their new Soulbringer class. That's pretty awesome. I remember we reported on it. Something new to play. Oh, and they also got a message the game's shutting down at the same time. Oh, yeah, that's not good.
That's gotta hurt really badly because you've got a new class coming, so you're thinking, oh, new content. There are things in the pipeline. If this is just now coming out, there's got to be more that's at least under development at this point. Nope. New class. You're done. We're shutting down. Congratulations. When are they deleting the accounts? February of 2023?
Yeah, Kakao Games is shutting down European and North American servers on December 7th when the regular weekly maintenance would normally be taking place. They are giving refunds for certain purchases within certain dates. You can find the whole article on mmobomb.com and a link to see what refunds you may or may not qualify. And then all Elyon information will be deleted on February 28th. So your account and everything in game will be gone. Your Kakao Games account, if you have one, that will be maintained, but the Elyon information is going to be gone. So, like, even if we get Wilfredo one of those scenarios where somebody doesn't want to publish it, it's not making enough money for them, and so they shut it down, and then you find it come back online 6 months or a year later with another publisher who's willing to make the lower amount of money that the other publisher wasn't willing to make, we would all be starting over at that point. That's rough. That's rough. Like, how did they not just wait a few days? Like, this wasn't shutting down until December. You did not have to announce this on the day their class dropped and mention the class being added in the shutdown notice.
That's like buying a new car, and then they're saying, yeah, congratulations, here's your new car. By the way, in a few months' time, we're taking it back.
Yeah,
what?
In the termination of service notification, it says, we know that many of you are excited for the new class Soulbringer that is available as of today. Nonetheless, we would like to set the correct expectations and bring you the unfortunate news up front.
Like, come on, man. Don't do that. Don't put something in front of somebody and go, by the way, in a little bit, we're going to get rid of it. All of it. Everything.
Yeah, I mean, or put it, like, announce that a week or two ahead. Or behind, just like separate them a little bit, man. Like, I do kind of appreciate that they did not do it like a week or two later, particularly if there were any cash shop skins or cosmetics that people might buy because of the new Soulbringer class. So announce it a week or two ahead of time. Hey, we're going to be bringing the Soulbreaker out, Soulbringer, which they did. They did make that announcement. But then you can also say, by the way, that's going to be our last really big update for the game. And give people a couple weeks to sit with it. Not like, oh, my update. Yes, Soulbringer available. Oh.
Oh, no.
Oof. 343 Studios under a little bit of fire, gentlemen, because, hey, remember Halo Infinite and local co-op? Yeah. Well, if you bought that game for specifically that reason, get wrecked. They're giving up on it, despite the fact that it's in the files and it was beta tested. I mean, nope, they're giving up on that. So 343 taking that away. I guess there's a little less oof on this one because we've also posted an article on mmobomb.com showing you exactly how you can still get it to work in the game. It's just not going to be officially supported, and who knows if at some point a future update will break the ability to play it like you have right now, Troy.
To me, I get that there are people that are probably upset about this. There are probably people who bought the game specifically for that. I'm not going to say they don't exist, but it's 2022, man. We all play online nowadays. I don't feel too bad about it.
Wilfredo, I mean, the part of the Halo classic experience was those LAN parties and local co-op.
Have you ever tried to move an Xbox One X? That thing is like moving in. So I mean, like, it honestly, I would definitely miss it if I was a huge Halo fan, but I'm not going to, and it really doesn't affect me. But I think overall, is anybody else surprised? I'm not at all. Ever since 343 took over, they always find something of like the Halo franchise to just say, hey, can we put the screws to that specifically? And then somebody, of course, an entire group is just angry. So
chat saying it's gone, but I'm not sure if they're talking about Elyon or the local play glitch. So
the answer is
yeah, check the site, but I wouldn't bank on it being there very long. I'd say, some point they're gonna take it out of there. Shift codes. I do want to let you know Borderlands 2, Borderlands 3, and Tiny Tina's Wonderlands got a massive shift code. Because Randy Pitchford was late on sending one out, so he promised like the mother of all shift codes. So that code is out. You can get it, and you can use it on Borderlands 2, 3, and Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. It gets you 10 golden keys for Borderlands 2, 10 golden keys and a diamond key for Borderlands 3, and 10 skeleton keys for Tiny Tina's Wonderland. Why am I bringing this up under the multiplayer gaming oof? Because Randy Pitchford is selling his worn ugly ass shirts.
What? Oh, man, no.
Is that it? There's no follow up to that. It's just he's just selling his worn ugly shirts.
It's for charity. I guess is the follow up.
Charity?
Oh,
God, this guy's so full of himself. I swear to God.
What? I don't want a hobo's t-shirt.
He's actually worn them. His tweet says, Gearbox fans may have noticed the loud shirts worn by our head honcho over the years. Now these shirts can be yours. Randy is auctioning off dozens of garments with all proceeds funding a developer scholarship. They are under blind bidding right now online, and they're just as ugly as you remember.
Why would they even be worth anything?
Because apparently, according to the bidding site, the approximate value of each of these shirts is listed at $400. Like, I don't know what label these things have in the back. So obviously that would play into it. Whether you think that's dumb or not, doesn't matter. It will play into it. But every single one of these shirts has an approximate value listed of $400. And what's sad is there are, let's say, 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, 42. There's approximately 50 shirts on here that are being blind bidded, and there isn't a single one that has 0 bids.
Oh.
I mean, I'm all for raising money for charity, and I'm all for a good, ugly shirt. I don't want to wear Randy Pitchford's.
Right. Again.
Regardless of its dry cleaning status.
Look, if Patrick Stewart can sit there with a glass of whiskey and go, I'm just going to drop 10 grand towards the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. Do that. Just do that. Don't. And the pandemic.
I bought a hoodie one time that cost $200. Is that
the most expensive article of clothing you've ever bought?
Probably.
And single article. Like, I'm not talking because obviously a suit, right? Like a suit or a tux would be more.
Individually, yeah, $200 for a. Oh man, it was a Tommy Hilfiger, I think maybe.
Get out.
I forget what brand it was. It was a hoodie.
Leave quietly and leave now. Don't make me call Ringling Brothers.
I think the most I've ever paid for a single article of clothing was a button-down shirt, and I think it was like $90 or $100. And I only bought like a couple of them because I really liked the design, and it was like one of those specialty, New York boutique type stores or whatever. Yeah, I'm more of I go to Walmart to look for my tank tops, and I'm like, why are these $11?
Thank you.
Like, that's more my...
Look, if you go back and watch every show, I wear these freaking bulk bought V-necks.
Yeah, shoes don't count. Shoes can get pricey.
Every episode of the show.
Yeah, shoes
buy them in
don't
bulk
count.
off of Amazon.
Hey,
shoes don't count.
What's going on? What's going on with some people that have spent a lot of money here, Troy, in Diablo Immortal? Some of them not having the best time. What do we got here?
So we've got some whales going into debt over Diablo Immortal. You know what? It's hard to feel sorry for these people, but at the same time, it's proving the predatory practices are in place here when people are getting into financial trouble in a game where they can't control themselves, they can't control their own spending habits. They fall into the predatory practices and get themselves into financial trouble. It's a sad state, and it's more testament to the predatory practices that are in place for this game and all the criticism that the game has received for those practices.
Yeah, and there's also a little bit of extra on this one, though, right? Because there is a third-party seller involved in these stories. These were people that were putting down money to buy orbs because through a third party, because the orbs are overpriced in the client itself. So they were buying them through a third party, and then obviously, they're spending quite a bit of money, $20 for 7,200 orbs, but they were doing that over and over and over. And then, Blizzard obviously starts pushing back against these third-party sellers and nuking accounts and refunding orbs or taking away orbs and stuff like that. And then the players were getting caught in the middle of this. All of a sudden, they had orbs. They had blown through them. They had used them. Now, Blizzard's going after the third party, Wilfredo. And like Shia, one of the game's top battleground wizards, had a screenshot of a negative almost 2.5 million orb balance. So unable to do PvP or anything like that because of the power creep that they had. That was a totally different story. but it is affecting what they can and can't do in game, carrying around these tens of thousands of dollar orb deficits if you go by the current rate on the cash shop.
Hey, look, here's the thing. You remember back in the day when all these people decided that they were going to sue Mickey D's because it was making them fat?
Yes, yeah.
It was, hey, we just provide the service. It's up to you if you want to eat it. And that's what this is. You wanted to go through a third party, which is already janky enough as is, and say, hey, man, you guys have them cheaper, so I'm going to buy them off of you. And then they go ahead and do their thing. And then it's like, no, Blizzard doesn't like that. They cut it. And then all of a sudden, you're in debt. Hey, all they did was provide a service. You're the one who eats it. So the way how I look at it, that's on you.
Yeah, it certainly has to be like a known risk if you're going to buy things like that off the third party, right? Like you have to know there are certain risks associated with that. But due to the negative balance, they're now not able to join parties. They're not able to do group activities in rifts or dungeons unless they repay their debt, which technically, Troy, I guess, they actually, the individual player, unless they tried to charge back against the third-party company, they did pay. They didn't pay what they were supposed to according to Blizz. They paid substantially less. But, yeah, I think at that point, you're like, nah, I need a different game, bro. Time for a different game.
And you just reminded me again that there's literally people who can pay so much in this game that they can't even participate in PvP because they're so overpowered. There's nobody to match them with.
Yeah, that was Shia. Yeah. Last one, and I bring this one up for kind of just maybe not oof, but a little weird, I thought. Splitgate is actually ceasing development on Splitgate. They're going to go work on what's loosely referred to as the sequel, maybe a reborn, like whatever you want to call it. So Splitgate came out, went gangbusters, like burned heavy, but only for a short period of time. They picked up a ton of money from different investors because of how fast it got. And then, yeah, not so big anymore. Whoops.
Been on screen a long time.
Yeah, you have. I was pulling something up. Like there's less than 1,000 people playing it right now on Steam. So fine. Yeah, great. But they got a ton of money for this game over at 1047 Games. And they do want to like rework some stuff in it, but they have decided it's probably better just to move on to the next project than to force this to work in its existing shell. So they're going to end development on the current game and release in the future a new Splitgate, if that's what you want to call it, if that's what they end up calling it, I don't know, on Unreal 5 and more features that they want in the current version, but it would just be easier to bake them into the project from the start than to try and force them in here. I don't know if I like this, because this does seem a lot of like, hey, we got a bunch of funding for this game. Cool, we're done with it. Let's go build the next one. But, Troy, to be fair to 1047, they are at least saying that this is kind of going to be the next iteration of Splitgate. So, yeah, new game, but not new game.
Yeah, sort of taken to the next level. What's really sad is I enjoyed Splitgate more than the Halo Infinite multiplayer. I felt like it was a more fun overall experience. The gunplay, it felt very similar to a Halo game to play, but overall the fun factor was greater in Splitgate than it was the Halo Infinite multiplayer for me, at least.
You just like the portals.
Yeah, the portals were pretty cool. I thought the gunplay and everything felt really good in that game too. I thought everything felt fantastic. The weapons were fun. The portals were fun. The map layouts were decent enough. I had a good time playing Splitgate. It's unfortunate to see it close, but hopefully they'll come out with a bigger, better version that can compete. Because I feel like sort of when the Halo Infinite multiplayer started coming out is probably when Splitgate really started taking a nosedive, because in terms of feel of a shooter, they felt very similar, but to me they was just more fun in Splitgate.
Are you okay with this kind of a move, Wilfredo? To be clear, they're not shutting the game down. They're just not going to do any development on it.
I think this gives me very much Final Fantasy XIV vibes without them completely rebuilding from scratch. necessarily. Like, I think if they have the money and they really want to make some improvements, but figure it's too much of a hassle to do it in its current state, sure, go ahead. It's your money. Do what you want. But I think it's also kind of a hit because if you're just putting the game into maintenance mode, it's not going to continue to draw in any extra revenue. You know, it's just going to sit there.
Yeah, you have the funding that you have now, and now you got to make that work, which is not, by the way, insubstantial. We've covered their history on MMO Bomb. They've gotten some huge investments from certain companies. So, I mean, they have funding. Will it be enough to make something that doesn't feel like you left Split? The worst thing that could happen, right, Troy, is they leave Splitgate and end up with an inferior product. Like, that would just be devastating.
Yeah, that would be terrible. They introduced this new, what's supposed to be the next generation game, and it comes out buggy and broken, and they've lost the fun factor of what they had found as far as the good stuff in Splitgate. There is that risk, right? You move on to something else, and even if it's the next generation of what you're doing, you always run the risk of you might lose something that you actually had going for you in the next step.
Let's move over and talk about some new releases coming up this week and some early access a little bit later this month. We've got Monstrum 2. This is out on Steam already, so I figured Troy's on with me. We'll talk a little 4v1 asymmetric. Survival horror is the way they're billing this. There's a bit of a survival horror game. Set inside a procedurally generated sea labyrinth, players will join a team of 2 to 5 players of prisoners evading the terrors while figuring out how to escape, or perhaps they end up just becoming the monstrosities they were trying to escape from. Troy, I don't know if you've had a chance to start checking this one out. I sent it over to you the other day. Troy's going to do a first look on it, but I love some of like the eldritch horror type monsters you got to see in the trailers here.
Oh yeah, the trailer with the eldritch horror monsters is absolutely fantastic. That's right up my alley. I'm really looking forward to it. I haven't got a chance to check it out yet, but I'm going to be playing this weekend for a first look next week, so I'm really looking forward to checking this out.
You can play as multiple different monsters too if you're going to play on that side, and they can be customized with unlockable skins. So very much in the vein of Evolve, right, Wilfredo? Like way back when, here's a monster, here's your peoples, but you're in this sea lab prison trying to escape. Yeah, the face models do look a little rough in the trailer. They definitely do.
Yeah, this gives me like Dead by Daylight vibes. It also gives me GTFO vibes. So I probably will check this out at some point just because of the fact that it's a horror game. Why not? Like, I thought Evil Dead was good. Why not? I'll give this a shot.
Evil Dead is good. They just got 2 new survivors this week, too.
Yeah.
And by the way, this one isn't... What I did like about this one, and it has mixed reviews right now, but it's not expensive. Like, and I'm sure you could tell that by the character models, the face models. Like, its normal price is 15 bones. Right now, it's on sale for $13.49. Some of the reviews, a lot of them have to do with player base size, and that's always a problem for these types of games if they don't hit it out of the park on a day one audience, right? So game is dead almost everywhere as far as I can tell. In Oceania, it's impossible to get a game. The only way you'll be able to play is through their Discord server and pinging people who wants to play. It's very inefficient and a huge red flag that the game is dead. Number 2, the devs are censoring people on outlets who express negativity. So, and whether or not that's true, this is just somebody's Steam review. Others say this could have been an amazing sequel to the first, but they ruined it with the Dead by Daylight theme. Multiplayer could have worked, but they should have just focused on a single-player mode first, because this is the sequel, right? So much potential wasted. I'm disappointed. It has an average of 3.8 players online. It's dead. Don't buy it. Now, I'm going to give them a little bit of leeway on player size right now. This did just go into early access this week, and it isn't something that unless you were a fan of Monstrum, which was a smaller niche game to begin with, you would necessarily even know about. So we'll see. But yeah, it is going to be one of those games that if they don't get some type of kickoff audience in there somehow, it's not going to be long for this world. Not going to be long for this world.
Yeah, and unfortunately, right now, even the Steam charts don't look great. So hopefully, it picks up some players as we go along.
First look should be fun. It's just 12 minutes of Troy looking for a match. Like, the only way I was able to record a match for this first look was to go into their Discord. I am recording a first look video. I don't want to slam the shit out of your game right away. I need 4 of you.
It wasn't that long ago that I messaged you about a game. I don't remember which game it was now, but I was like, bro, are you sure you want me to do this? Because I can't even get a cue to pop. Like, the multiplayer was just me.
Yeah.
Like, it would pop with just me, and I was alone by myself in a PvP game in this big open world, and it's just me running around, just looking at stuff, going, this is okay, I guess.
On the other side of things, whoops, I clicked the wrong link there. There we go. On the other side of things, we've got another one. This is actually headed into early access, so not an official launch, for Galahad 3093. This is a mech-based shooter, a mech hero-based shooter, and it's in early access on Steam for typically $25, a little bit of a sale right now if you want to pick it up. It's been in a beta for a while, actually. This has been in beta since like late 2020. Lots of updates since then, but it is very, obviously by the name Galahad, it is very kind of Arthurian legend-ish in that your knights or your mechs, their knights, are inspired by all of like King Arthur and Lancelot and everything in the legend. 12v12 battle arenas with your lances, and combat is, quote, never-ending battle to capture and hold territory across 7 vertical sci-fi arenas that can have game-changing events, such as an out-of-nowhere comet striking the field or a distant desert sandworm looking for its next lunch. My biggest thing on mech games, coming from the Mech Warrior days and the Armored Core days, I want customization. I want control over all the management. That is there. They claim hundreds of possible builds and abilities between 23 weapon systems, 148 variants, and over 500 modules. You can make something like a lightning-fast scout to kind of navigate terrain, or a heavy-duty juggernaut with rockets, grenades, that type of build. And obviously, putting your mech together is going to be most of the fun on this one. Not a lot of people in-game right now. Early access, but this one is on the mostly positive side of reviews right now. Still very low review count. They're only approaching 30, but this one I think appealed to me a little more than the last one because I like 4v1, don't get me wrong, but I do like the mech gameplay too. Like, I like Mech Warrior Online, and do you guys remember Hawken back in the day?
I was just about to say that.
Hawken, yeah. I played a lot of Hawken back in the day.
Yeah, I still have my Hawken T-shirt that those devs sent me way back when. So this one probably, if you're only gonna pick one, probably this one. I would say. You loved Hawken? Hell yeah, Encore. Hell yeah. What do you got, Wilfredo? Is this something you want to check out?
Yeah, I do. I am going to admit though, if I see one more ad pop up on my YouTube or TikTok about Hawken or about Galahad 3039, I'm gonna lose it because I see a lot of it. And I play games like Battle Mech and things like that too. And this definitely gives me like the Armored Core vibe, which I absolutely love that series. So I will check it out, just because of the fact that it's mechs. But I just wanted to live up to that level. Like, I look at Daemon X Machina, live up to that level when it comes to the PvP. I want it to be fast paced. I want to be able to have my custom mech. I want to go to town.
Yeah, the customization is going to be a big part, Troy. Going to be a big part. It always is in these types of games. You know, it's not just enough to give me, if you're going to give me a mech, I don't want to be able to give it different paint jobs. Like, I want to get in there and fine tune the hardware, baby.
And see, that's my thing. Like, I want the mech fantasy, right? If you're going to play a mech game, I want, like you said, I want to build my mech. I want to be able to customize it. And we're not talking paint schemes. We're talking about weapons and speed and armor and things like that. And I want that, but the trailer makes it just look like an action shooter where there's not going to be any mech fantasy at all. So if there's going to be things like that included in the game, I think they did a poor job. They were focused on the fast paced action shootery stuff in the trailer, and I don't think that translated into the mech fantasy stuff. But I may just be an old guy who doesn't like the flashy trailer.
Well, we do have leaks of a new Armored Core, right? So we could always fall back on that, gentlemen. Rumors of From Software working on another Armored Core game. We'll see.
Be okay with that.
Last bit of new games. This one isn't technically new, so I'm just gonna give you a little piece of info. Infinity Wars, the trading card game, or the CCG, online CCG, they're back in kind of a new version, right? Infinity Wars Classic is back online, and you have access to every single card. Like, it's just free to play, and you have every single card. Just go play it. Why? Because they are kickstarting an expansion set. That's what they're going to go ahead and do, and that's almost funded. They were looking for $17,000. It's got 9 days left, and it's a little under $11,500. So hopefully they'll make it. But if you want to see a CCG online that you're not going to have to pay anything for, that you can build the decks. I actually really did like Infinity Wars back in the day when I did the first look for this, so I am glad to see it back. You can go play this one for free without having to buy a single damn card. All right, last thing, and then we're going to head over to the weekly bombs. If you missed it, yesterday we did post our DreamWorld interview with CEO Garrison Bellack. That is an hour and 45 minutes long. I know it's long. And obviously thanks to Garrison for sitting there and being interviewed for that long. This was not your typical, hey, let's talk about your upcoming expansion. We'll do a little PR, and I'll ask you a couple questions about other things that your game wants to, your player base wants to know about and stuff like this. This was at sometimes brutal. There have been, we talked last week, Troy, about accusations, and was it a scam, and the team has been accused of this, and they were doing this, and minors were in charge of the Discord moderation, and did they bypass a bunch of protocols to get their investors? Were they lying to investors? Credit where due, and I said this in the interview too, Garrison did not have the questions ahead of time. I was not given any limitations on questions I could ask. And in fact, I almost didn't take the interview because we don't cover Kickstarter games on here. Otherwise, we'd always be covering Kickstarter MMOs or multiplayer games. We'd never leave the damn site. And honestly, the game's just had such a tragic last 15 months or so that I just didn't want to be involved in the drama. I told the reps when they reached out and said, would you like to do this interview? I said, honestly, no. I have no desire for MMO Bomb to be used as a potential PR outlet for this mess of a game. Whether or not they end up with a good game at some point really didn't matter to me. I was like, I don't think I want to. They're not going to answer. There's no way he's going to answer the questions I would have. And the PR said, well, maybe he will, because he wants to set the record straight on a lot of this stuff. And I sent over 2 example questions, and I said, unless he's going to answer questions like this, I don't want to do the interview. And I don't know if they showed those 2. I didn't end up using those 2 specific questions in the interview anyway, because they were kind of explained in the context of other questions. And I said, fine. And they said, yeah, he's fine. He'll answer stuff like this. And I'm like, okay, away we go. Let's do it. There were like 48 questions I had. It was like 48 questions I had. And obviously, like, I don't mind doing interviews, but I don't particularly enjoy PR interviews. Like, I understand, Guild Wars 2 has a new expansion. Somebody wants to come on and talk about their expansion. I get it. From an advertising perspective, they want to do that. From an advertising perspective, on our side, we want that type of content. But I always try and throw in, not everything can be a softball, even in those types of interviews, right? This one, there wasn't a single damn softball. Like, I introduced him, Troy. I don't know how much of it you watched, but I introduced him, and I was just like, okay, let's start right off the beginning. Is DreamWorld a scam? Like, was it a scam back then when you pitched it on Kickstarter? Was it a scam when you pitched it to investors as new tech? Is it a scam now? Is it a scam? Like, that's where we started. And again, to his credit, he answered every single one. Now, I know some people have been busting him up for like saying and stuff like that a lot. I give him a little credit on that one, or a little leeway, I should say, on that one. Yeah, he did say like a lot. But
he seemed kind of like a guy that just that was just part of his vocabulary, though, to me.
Well, also, he didn't have access to the questions, so he had no idea what I was going to ask, in what order I was going to ask them, and he certainly didn't know any of my rebuttal questions that weren't even planned to ask, but I just rebutted with his answer. Mm-hmm. Yeah, to Cal doesn't like that I didn't press him on Optum and Kira, who claimed that they were banned from the Discord server for no good reason. And Garrison says, hey, there's other reasons that people got banned from the Discord back then when that was happening. One, I wasn't going to name any content creators specifically because I didn't have the content creator there to defend themselves. So I wasn't going to give Garrison the platform to bash a particular person without them being there to defend themselves.
Yeah, you can't take a side without being a part of it yourself.
Right. And then my thought process there, Tikal, because I almost said something back, but my thought process there is they're not here to defend themselves. I can't prove that he's lying. So if he is lying, then you can expect a new Callum Upton video, right? Like, you can, if Callum sees the interview and sees that, then you can expect a new Kira video. Like, let the people who can prove it wrong use my footage and prove it wrong. That's kind of like my mentality there. They're not here to defend themselves. I have no way of verifying whether what he's saying is the truth or not, so I can't bust him and say, screenshot, it wasn't me that was banned, so let them do it, was kind of my take on that. But it was a lot of fun. It was a very good interview, and whether or not I think you like DreamWorld or you think maybe it could be a good game in the future or something special, maybe not. And I said that in the interview. Like, who knows where this is going to be 2 years, 5 years from now? It might not even be a thing. It might be a game that's like, wow, look at what this game has come through, like a No Man's Sky or something like that. Who knows? Who knows? Yeah, there are DreamWorld fans in the comments. But I definitely recommend checking out the interview. Troy, since we had talked about it previously, what did you think of what you were able to watch?
Man, I think it's a couple of guys who have a dream that may just be in over their head is what it comes across to me. I don't know that. I think scam is probably too strong a word in my opinion. But also in my opinion, I don't know that these guys have the ability to pull off what they want to pull off. They have big dreams. I won't hold that against them. They have big ambitions. They want to make a great game. Hopefully they want to make a great game. But there was nothing in that interview that made me feel any differently about the game than what I did before. And it's that something for me is something that I'm going to pretty much avoid.
Wilfredo, you in the same boat?
First off, I want to say that the game gives me early like EverQuest Next vibes. But I think overall, when it came to his explanation on many things, like when you were talking about 1 million people on a server and how that's a lofty goal, I think that explaining it, although it's not getting complete answers or direct answers, I think explaining it in a much more clarified way hopefully does bring a little bit more, I would say, calmer waters for DreamWorld. You know, we don't know what's going to happen. The future is completely unknown. But I think overall the interview was fantastic. I think that his communication on his end, as much as he could say, because there were a lot of things he couldn't mention, you know, I think he tried to be as transparent as possible. So credit to Garrison, credit to you for doing it for that long, you know, and hopefully they're living up to their goal. I mean, I still don't see the technology for, 1 million people on a server, but everything else seems like they've got the plan. It's just a matter of building it up.
It was like one of those things I said like 5 times in the interview where it was like, if you could do this, don't you think other companies would have done it already? Like, it's not like somebody at Microsoft or Square Enix or Activision who run massive amounts of online MMORPGs haven't been sitting there like, is there any way we could just get everybody on one server? Like, guys, is that possible? Could we figure out something? And apparently these two guys have figured it out, or think that they at least have an idea of how it would work. And he wouldn't go into like the extreme details, but yeah, I was just like, making data packets smaller isn't the answer. It certainly helps, but it's not the answer. What is the actual networking solution going on here?
If you do have that, please license it to Amazon Game Studios. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh God, you definitely need it. It's been a little rough, man. Although that's good in one respect, right?
Yeah, in a good way, a little rough, but still rough. Like, it's good that the player base is growing, but queue times.
Yeah.
Woo.
Yep. I don't. Yeah. I was just thinking about that. I was like, I like that they're getting out ahead of this. Hey, we're having a little bit of a population influx. Asmon probably has something to do with that, right? He picked it up again, so a bunch of people probably grab it. Then you've got Brimstone Sands coming and the Greatsword. Everybody that likes New World likes a new weapon. That's on the PTR right now. So, like, I understand having a population increase and getting out in front of it. But then when I saw that their solution was they were going to add a few more servers, I was like, no, like, haven't we done this already? What's going to happen 4 weeks after Brimstone Sands comes out and the population just naturally decreases a little bit?
All those people who transferred off of my server to go to one of the new servers, you'll be welcomed back with open arms when they merge you back into us.
With open arms. All right, go check out the interview. I appreciate all feedback on that as well. Let's slide over and get started with the weekly bombs. Tori saying the same thing. What do you mean by server there? 1 million people communicating with a single server application? That's absolutely impossible. And we're talking about, imagine 1 million World of Warcraft players all throughout one instance, all throughout one server. That's what they're talking about. Not just, hey, a little bit of communication go back. Packets of shit.
Could you imagine Baron's chat? If there were that many people in the same server.
Hey, by the way, chat, while you're watching this on MMO Bomb or on YouTube, make sure you put weekly bombs in the questions. I know everybody was excited by my DreamWorld question of the week last week, and I do appreciate all the answers. We're going to go through those in a second. Love it, love it, love it. Thank you so much. But you got to make sure that you give me a weekly bomb and a question of the week. I took the question of the week segment away for a couple of shows, and all of you screamed at me. I'm going to take the weekly bombs if I can only fill one or the other. So don't forget. Chat's going to give me a few bombs just to get you through this show. I'm going to give an A-bomb to Elyon's announcement timing. Good Lord, that was just awful. That was just awful. Announce it a couple of weeks ahead, not the day your new class drops in game. Hey, patch is live. By the way, game's not. That's not the way you should be communicating anything. Go ahead, Troy.
A-bomb to Wilfredo for, in his words, hating Krispy Kreme.
Oh, really? Man, you've been holding on to that for 50 minutes now.
I can't believe that I once considered you a friend. But no more, sir. No more. Never again. You have betrayed that trust, and I will never reconcile with your hatred of Krispy Kreme. And, man, last night I went on a nostalgia trip, okay? Last night, I downloaded a Rift, and I logged into Rift for the first time in, I don't know, since I streamed it, and there was nobody there. And I don't know if I want to give it a dub bomb for still being there and the nostalgia of the sounds of the quest being accepted, or an A-bomb for the fact that it's in the state it's in. I don't even know.
You should give it the A-bomb because somebody in chat is giving it a dub bomb now.
A-bomb for the state of Rift and its perpetuity of nothingness.
Go ahead, Wilfredo.
Originally, I was going to give an a dub bomb to Mike for doing an hour and 45-minute interview.
You're too kind, but take that away and do something else.
So now I got to say, I guess A-bomb to myself for not being normal. for not liking Krispy Kreme donuts.
I think you should have turned around and given him the A-bomb. And it's just both hosts just like trashing each other today.
That's what we're gonna do. A-bomb to Troy for liking that garbage Luther version of the donut.
Terra Nova says, "Da-bomb to Rift, outlasting another MMO shutting down. Just how does it do it? Just how does it do it? I don't know. Troy, go ahead, take the next one from chat there. Stojan,
the bomb for Sanctum 2 turns out to be really good tower defense FPS game.
Nice. Go ahead, Wilfredo.
Old Glory, Da-bomb to Da-bomb. No YouTube channel. Noriyaru, sorry. Started to watch him when I got cow ID.
I'm pretty sure that's COVID.
I would assume so.
Yeah.
COVID.
I don't think Old Glory got cow ID.
That'd be interesting. I got a cow ID. I'm now one of the cows. Started watching when I got COVID, and now I'm kind of addicted.
Cow ID. Takal says, "Da-bomb to Cameron. Dude raps with all the excitement and enthusiasm of somebody running says Tasha for the millionth time, but still manages to make it sound dope." Go ahead, Troy.
Tori the chicken. Heck, I'm going to give myself a Da-bomb. I bought an apartment this week, so I can soon be here for the whole show with no interruption of dinner time.
There you go.
Yay.
Nice. Wilfredo, I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, Tikal, A-bomb to Wilfredo for the donut take. You are nothing to me now. Not a friend, not a brother. I don't want to know you or what you do. When you host a show, I want to know the day in advance so I won't be there. My guy.
Like, I think the damage he just caused was less than Will Smith's slap. Like, just less.
Absolute facts. Where's TMZ on this?
Absolutely. Nasagra saying, "Da-bomb to Atlier for putting me deeper into the rabbit hole. Started playing Nelk, a town management spinoff, and I'm completely addicted to it, and I don't care." I started playing Legend of Dragoon again last night on my Steam Deck because I got to get... I got to do homework for a friend's podcast. Like, I got invited to like do so many different podcasts like this week. I'm going to be next week on Wednesday evening. I'll be hanging out with Ginger Prime on his podcast. We'll be doing one with the Within Crisis team on Legend of Dragoon. That one's not scheduled yet. And then something the week of the 25th. Like, I'll keep you all posted. I'm going to be in a lot of places. Last week I said, all right, open the floodgates. What do you think about DreamWorld? Joseph Milligan said, "Among the crowdfunded games I've played, DreamWorld has been moving in a great direction. I don't buy into all the pre-release reviews. They all seem critical of the concept rather than the content. I'd hope this game would encourage more enthusiasts to become creators." So kind of a neat take on, I don't know where this game's going, but I like where it's where their development is heading so far. So go ahead, Troy.
Giga Bear, I know the concept of having like a bajillion people on one server is rightly viewed with skepticism, but DreamWorld isn't using a traditional client server model where the server simulates everything. The game server is more akin to the way Discord operates than a typical model. As an example, if I dig a hole, then my client sends to the server the location it happened. The server then forwards that to all relevant clients, people close enough to see the event, and writes the actual terrain modification to the database. What it does not do is actually simulate that event as our PCs are doing that instead, nor does the server have a version of the game world running in memory at all. I'm not saying they would be able to cram 1 million players onto one game world, but I did find the proposal plausible enough to back the Kickstarter. So far in alpha, the tech is working, albeit at low player counts. It remains to be seen how it will scale in early access.
Yeah, and I did kind of bring this up, and a full disclosure, by the way, GigaBear is a huge DreamWorld supporter. So when I was catering that interview and I said, hey, these are questions that I think your detractors want addressed, but I think your supporters also want these things put to bed. That's why I'm going to ask these questions. Both sides want the answer. GigaBear is definitely on that side. A Kickstarter backer, very positive about the game on just about any forum or news article or whatever. So, yeah. That was my immediate question then becomes, that's essentially a peer-to-peer connection, which then starts to open up incredible security risks, potential incredible security risks. with the server just basically basically becoming a telephone, right? At that point, I have my input, it goes through the telephone, and Tori happens to be nearby me enough in the world to get that telephone call, for lack of a better term. And I'm oversimplifying. I know I'm doing it on purpose. Please don't blast me. When I asked Garrison specifically, then are you utilizing some type of peer-to-peer architecture or something that's behaving in a similar way to peer-to-peer? He unequivocally said no. He said no. That absolutely just poses more security risks than we're ready to deal with. And security is something we take very seriously. So I don't know how accurate, because GigaBear put this comment on there before the interview. And when I replied to GigaBear saying, well, that's essentially a peer-to-peer, which opens up security risks, GigaBear said, yeah, it absolutely does. So we're going to have to see where it goes. And then the interview came out, so maybe that changes GigaBear's thinking here on how it works a little bit, but we'll see. Go ahead, Wilfredo.
Silver. Love the game shows, Mike. Keep up the great work. I am waiting for Nightmare World, a parody MMO probably better than the original, made by Callum Upton.
Yeah, so Callum is making Nightmare World in response to this whole situation, which is him and a bunch of contacts. They're totally volunteer, like working on it on their own time. They're like, if these guys can make an MMO and think that they can, we're going to make one that's just better. And so, yeah, that's Nightmare World. And appreciate the feedback on the game shows. I like doing stuff like that, too. Cold Fortune says, looking at this from a development standpoint, I'd be curious to see how much has changed from year one to now. Looking at the launch video compared to their one-year dev video, a lot has been done. Now, assuming they can keep up that pace, there may be an underdog story somewhere in here. We all remember No Man's Sky at launch versus 2 years later. And I agreed with Cold Fortune. I said, you know what? Sure. Could it be the next A Realm Reborn? Sure. Could it be the next No Man's Sky? Sure. It absolutely could be. Might not be, but it absolutely could be. My point on to Cold Fortune, knowing that I was going to do this interview a few days later, was they were No Man's Sky and stuff was able to get away with it because they had player trust to a certain degree. Something DreamWorld had obviously lost or had sacrificed with different scandals, and that they were going to need to earn some of that trust back to even have a chance to pull this off. Whether that interview earned that trust back for you or not, you'll have to make that determination from watching it. Go ahead, Troy.
Metallica fan 1442. I have watched Josh, Callum, and Kira TV's videos in the past. I reckon it's two people that want to make an MMORPG, referring to DreamWorld. The problem is they have no idea what they are doing. Ultimately, this will be a scam as they are taking money from investors and the public.
So a little more on your line of thinking there, Troy. Maybe not as far with the scammy part, but this seems like two guys who, hey, let's make a game, and they got in there over their head a little bit. Go ahead, Troy. Wilfredo, finish it up.
Yep. Brisk. Now, if you use an array of enums, then put them in a line and pile them, you could network them into instances and boom, booyah, bazinga.
That was my favorite comment.
All you developers, I'm sure you love that just as much as I did. I replied, I think, to Thoverus, just saying, you're crazy. I absolutely love you. Question of the week this week. What do you think of the leaked Overwatch Battle Pass situation and the hero locking behind the either buying the Battle Pass or grinding through the Battle Pass? And would that opinion be different if Overwatch 1 hadn't have been buy to play with all the heroes just thrown into it? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget your weekly bombs while you're there. D-bomb for something good, A-bomb for something bad in the world of gaming in general. And if you have any questions for the panel, throw them down there and I'll bring them to next week's. Anthony's on next week. He was supposed to be on today, but he had to reschedule. So Anthony and I and whoever, we'll see you next week. Until then, Wilfredo, where can everybody find you?
Check me out at Twitter at DamianXMarius. And hopefully I'll get my YouTube channel started at some point.
Troy.
Hey, tomorrow over on Ready Check Radio for Gaming Gumbo. Come by and check it out.
Yeah. You're a good friend. You're a good friend sometimes. You know that? You're a good friend.
I'm an all right guy, and I like Krispy Kreme donuts.
Yeah, all right. You got 2 points. I'm Mike Byrne. You can follow me right there at MagicMan1, but more importantly, follow at MMOBomb so we can tweet at you every time we go live with a podcast. First look video, is it worth returning? Wilfredo video, so much more. Until next week, stay safe. We'll see you on the servers.